welcome to our presentation. We're excited to be here as the Idaho TCOM team and sharing with you a little bit about what we do here in the state of Idaho. And we are all part of the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. And there's 5 of us on our team. There's 4 of us presenting today, but that's because Bethany was in San Francisco with a presentation out there. So she got off the hook a little bit for today, but she is here with us for that moral support, I guess. We are spread out around the state. The 2 of us, Bethany and I, are here on the eastern side of Idaho. Our fearless leader, Kyle, is just south of us in Pocatello, still on the east side. And then April and Molly are on the west side of the state. We spend most of our time collaborating virtually, but occasionally we get together and hang out. So it's all good. What we hope to cover today is to help you understand what our new system of care is in Idaho, how our One Kids, One Cans work group has works and what we have gained from having that collaboration, our parent involvement in the work group effort and the importance they are in the work that we do, our future development, our hopes and dreams of where we want to take the TCOM tools going forward in the state of Idaho. And in the end, we hope to be able to answer any questions or have discussions with you at the end of our presentation. Our learning objectives is to help you understand how we are partnering with parents to educate them about the cans and how it can be effective in their families, and gain insights of how the parents work and in the One Kid, One Cans work group to assist us with that, and learn how parents sharing their experience with the cans has helped encourage more use of the cans in the state of Idaho. And we hope that you will understand how we collaborate with parents, how we engage with them, and really discuss how parents are the key to our success in using the TCOM tools here in Idaho. I'm going to turn the time over to Kyle.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. We're so glad you're here. We hope that you will be inspired and have some ideas come to you about how you might be able to incorporate the parent voice more in the work you're doing wherever you're at. So, and we hope to have some discussion at the end and maybe get some ideas from you guys too about things you do. But just to start out, want to give you some context for where we are in Idaho and some of the things we're working on. So hopefully this will be beneficial background for you. But we'll start by saying, oh, thanks, Dr. Lyons, for calling that out. I appreciate the recognition, and I love seeing some familiar names on the participant list today. So great group of people. And I don't know, Paul, I did stay up too late and see a pink floating cloud over the horizon. I saw the northern lights with my naked eye last night. It was very exciting. Actually, I don't know that it really was that exciting, but I saw it, so credit for that. But here in Idaho, we are up north, and we have a very large state geographically, and so that brings challenges. But we've been using the cans for about a decade now. Child welfare started with an implementation. It was challenging. They struggled to really use it well, but behavioral health, we were trained on their version, and then we liked it, and built our own behavioral health version in Idaho. And today we also have the crisis assessment tool that's in use at youth crisis centers. We have the Family Advocacy and Support Tool. I think I finally successfully learned that acronym. Very proud of myself. The FAST, both child welfare and juvenile justice are using that tool. And recently we introduced the ANSA to our behavioral health system. So a lot of good TCOM work happening in Idaho, but we're going to focus mainly on the CANS and our children's system today. So, like other states, we do have a lawsuit to improve our children's behavioral health system. So, a lot of our work is driven by that. I tend to see that as a good thing and an opportunity. And why don't we just want to build a great behavioral health system for our kids, regardless of whether the plaintiffs are driving it? But it does bring together a lot of people for us to work with. So, as I mentioned, there's a lawsuit. Our label, I think other states have this as well, serious emotional disturbance. I passionately hate. Like, oh, if you get your kids, diagnosed in a CANS functional assessment, you too can qualify to have your kid labeled as seriously emotionally disturbed. But what we're trying to do is provide good support for children, and an array of services beyond just psychotherapy. But that's a struggle, easier said than done in a state like Idaho, where we don't exactly have a lot of resources. But we have been working on our CANS implementation. Initially, when we rolled it out, um, there was a large work group that picked their favorite items, and it became a very large tool. I think we had around 170 something items when you filled out all of the modules, which was pretty cumbersome. And we also had some challenges with the way we did training and our electronic platform. So there was a group that was formed to create a new version of the CANS. And that was about 2 years ago when that group was formed. And it was called the One Kid, One CANS Work Group. And the reason for that name is with our electronic system, we really struggled to have the CANS be a communication tool. So a provider would do a CANS, and then a family would go to get another service, and the other provider would do a brand new CANS, not using any of the information on the previous one. So I know of a family that unfortunately did 3 CANs in 3 weeks, and that was just last year. So they went to one provider, had one done, and then we have a Medicaid waiver for our SED youth, so it goes up to 300% of poverty level. So then they went to Liberty, who does those independent assessments. They had another CANS done, not using any of the information from the previous one. And then they went to another provider and had another one done. So you can put yourselves in that family's shoes, and it was probably not real enjoyable for them to just complete assessment after assessment. And one of the biggest things we've struggled with is also just the idea that the CANS is not a questionnaire. So we had a video that was actually produced by us, and so we contributed to this problem, but it referred to the CANS as a series of questions. And if I ever hear the CANS referred to as a series of questions again, I might lose my mind. But we've been trying to dispel that myth for years, and it seems to persist, and providers still just want to keep holding on to the CANS as a series of questions. But we're trying to help them understand it's an information integration tool, consensus based. And that's kind of the background for why this One Kid, One CANS work group was created. And I was asked to co chair this with a parent. And we have some marvelous parents in Idaho. If you've been to the conference in previous years, some of them were there. But I have an amazing co chair on this work group who took the time to get CANS certified. We'll see a video of her in a few minutes, but it's been a great experience. So initially, I was a little nervous about, how such a large work group was going to work together with a varied background, people coming from different perspectives. Our initial managed care company came with the perspective of how do we get rid of it? And other people seem to love the 170 items and want to keep all of them. And so building consensus was challenging, and building a new version of our CANS in Idaho. And that was our first objective, to streamline our cans. And then our second objective we were asked to accomplish is come up with some ways to improve the user experience. So we'll, as we go through this presentation, talk about three different areas where we came up with some ideas to improve the user experience. Um, but first, we want to talk about our new version that we implemented in July of this year and share a video that the Center for Innovation and Population helped us with. Lauren Morgan did a fantastic job, her team. And so I'll go ahead and click play on this. And I believe I shared my sound in the video the way it should be. So let me know if you don't hear it.
The Idaho TCOM Competency Center, part of the Center of Excellence, a division of behavioral health under the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, is excited to share recent changes being made to how the CANS is used to support effective care for children in our state. After evaluating feedback from our community partners, a work group of diverse representation identified specific recommendations targeted to improve the CANS process, with the goals of enhancing user experience through simplification and education, and continuing to improve the overall quality of care we provide. As a result of these efforts, we are proud to introduce the Idaho CANS 3.0. The TCOM Competency Center is home to a team of subject matter experts who collaborate, create, provide, and share expertise and best practices with community members who use TCOM tools. First implemented in 2015, the Idaho CANS, for Child and Adolescent Needs and Strengths, is an information integration tool used across the state's multiple child-serving systems to help address the needs and strengths of children, youth, and families. The Idaho CANS is a cornerstone tool within the Idaho YES system of care, ensuring the identification and delivery of effective and appropriate services, and helping us identify needs and support youth and families through organizing and communicating a shared vision. The CANS supports decision-making and service planning based on an actionable level of care identified for each individual youth and family. When the CANS is regularly updated, we can monitor outcomes to ensure services are building strengths and meeting needs. Data gathered over time has helped us determine opportunities for quality improvements, increasing the effectiveness of Idaho's family serving systems. The new Idaho CANS 3.0 is shorter than previous versions. By merging similar items and removing redundant modules and drop-down menus, we created a cleaner, streamlined process for gathering information. The strengths domain is now the first domain to be completed to ensure that strengths are emphasized and action levels are clarified at the beginning of the information gathering. One item has been added, exploring access to technology, to reflect the importance and growth of telehealth as an option to receiving care. The trauma domain has been simplified to a yes or no rating to be more sensitive and trauma-informed. In the transition to adulthood domain, the age requirement is increased from 14 years old to a more suitable threshold of 16 years old. In the caregiver domain, language was adapted and items were modified to emphasize support for caregivers. Enhancements to the Idaho CANS will not only improve the care manager's process for implementing the tool, but it will also improve the experience for children, youth, and families. Our Idaho TCOM Institute offers certification trainings and other trainings. Virtual and in-person trainings around the state are available according to your convenience and preference. The Idaho TCOM team is available to assist you with any needs you may have in using TCOM tools in practice. For more information or to answer any questions about the Idaho CANS 3.0, contact our team by email at bhcoetcom@dhw.idaho.gov.
All right, what a great video. Hopefully that kind of gives you an overview of what we did with our new version of the CANs. And I can share a link in a little bit if you're interested in actually seeing what the rating sheet and the reference guide look like. But we now have a version of the CANs that is around 90 items, a little more manageable. And we'll also talk about some of the other improvements that we've made as we go through today. Right. I love Napoleon Dynamite. Huge fan. That's actually just a town a little bit south of me where it was filmed, where it happened. So I wish I could share. We had Idaho Spud candy when we came in person to the conference last year. I'm going to save up and make sure that I'm there in Chicago. We'll bring you some more Idaho Spud candy. But I want to just mention a couple of other challenges that will give you the context as we go through portability and communications and training. So we had a managed care company that kind of took on the cans in the middle of their contract. I don't know that we ever really incorporated it well into our process for making decisions. And so that was an uphill battle. I love the theme of this year's conference. But another battle that we had was our electronic health record that was really challenging for providers to get it from one place to another. The consent and referral process was just so frustrating that providers didn't want to use it. And they also struggled with when it was time to do updates. If they were more than a few days late, they would have to start from scratch with all of like the bubble ratings and the narratives. And that was incredibly frustrating for providers to retype all of those things. So we've tried to address numerous of the issues and really improve things with a new managed care company that went live on July 1st. So there has been a ton of change in Idaho this year, and we're still trying to sort through it all. But we really love that new version of the cans. And hopefully, eventually, when we work through some of the other challenges with technology, it'll really shine that the new version is there and it was created with families in mind to make things better. And just the last thing I'll say is my favorite part is having the strengths at the beginning. Not that the cans is in order, like I said, it's not a series of questions, but we do want people to see those strengths and think about strengths when they're doing treatment planning. And so I hope that we're going to be much more focused on strengths than we have been in the past. But I'm going to pass it off to Brad, and we're going to talk more. Oh, sorry, April, and we're going to talk more about communications and the work group that was done and some of the improvements we've made there.
Right. I'm April, and I am excited to be here to talk to you about the accomplishments that we've made climbing these hills of systems change in Idaho. Kyle discussed the journey that started in the 80s with the youth development, the youth empowerment services, and all the things and all the learning curves that created the One Kid, One Cans work group and how we pulled that together. So there's three things that I'm going to talk about. The first one is our comforts and concern document, and I hope that you all have access to that. The other is our parent voice in the trainings. And the last one is the CANS refresher course that we originally started for our in-house staff after we had them all trained. If we can go to the next slide, I'll talk to you about the comforts and concern document. So we originally started out with this comfort concern document, and it was called the Myths and Facts. And as a result of working together with the team, we changed the name to Comforts and Concerns and Comforts to kind of to address that there are some big concerns that families were having and that providers were having, and then concerns just to say, hey, or comforts just to say, hey. There really is some answers to those things. We started this out by there was a survey that Molly's going to talk about in just a few minutes. And from that survey, we took the top 10, excuse me for a second. We took the top 10 concerns and we asked the work group to narrow them down and number them from their highest to the least concern. And that's the document that you have in front of you. And when we look at this concerns and comforts document, we notice that the first three concerns are talking about the length of time, how long this thing takes to do. It's talking about, gosh, it's so long. They ask every question. It's another hoop that we have to jump through. Those updates take hours. And through our process, we've been in our trainings talking about that. And then our comforts on the other side of the page, really talks about, yeah, there are a lot of items, there are a lot of things going on. But the cans, the whole idea of that is pulling together consensus so that we can organize our information and we have action levels. We know how to work with people. I'm not going to go through this document in full detail. Just the first part of it was concerned about the length of time everything took. And we put a few heuristics in here. The fourth one is talking about my child's behavior. You're focusing on safety, but my child's behavior is dangerous. Why are you talking about strengths? And so we went on the comfort side and we said, you know, we really need to be looking at those strengths because those strengths help us decrease some of the negative things that are going on. And strengths are important in helping us decrease those behaviors. And then we have a link to the strengths video in here so that we know that that's important. Strengths are important to work on. And then as we go down through this flyer, you'll notice a lot of things here about parents feeling like the therapist is in charge, feeling like they don't even know the cans is happening, that they feel like it's just something that they have to do. And so on the comforts side, we talked about how this really is important. It is a consensus tool. It does bring information together and really working to educate the parents about their voice and advocating when they're concerned, like, I don't even know what cancer is happening and they won't even give it to me. That's an opportunity to educate them about how to advocate for themselves. In here, it's talking about the Liberty assessment that Kyle was talking about and how they're not getting it and they have to do all these assessments over and over. Well, I think Brad's going to be talking about, Molly and Brad are going to be talking about how that's been working through our new system as well. If we can move on to the next slide, I'll talk about how our parent voice came about. Before I do that, are there any questions about the comforts and concerns? Okay. So our comforts and concern, our parent voice, we recognize that the areas of concern could be resolved through training. And with that, we decided to devise a parent voice, and the parent voice came about through this comforts and concerns. We thought, wow, it would really be cool if we could get this voice into our training. So we got a pool of parents. We started out with 2 parents that would come into our virtual trainings and they would answer questions like, how have you received the cans? How has the cans been valuable for you? And through their story, they were saying a lot of the information that is in this comforts and concern. We didn't even know a cans was happening. We didn't even get a copy of it. We felt like it was this inquisition and just all these concerns. So when the parents came into our training, this was in our CAN certification training, they would answer these questions, and then we would have the trainees be able to ask and answer questions back and forth. And that was a pretty good way to utilize parents to help dispel the myths and to help the trainees get a really good view of what this was about, what the cans, it's not this checklist, it's not this thing that you have to get perfectly, that you can actually listen to a family's story and get information from that story, and you can rate your cans, and that how the cans is an organizer. So that was very informational and helpful. And the trainees really did like it. One of the things that they said is, how do we get a youth's voice now? So after we worked through with these 2 parents, we recognized that they can't come to all of our trainings because there's only 2 of them. and they have a life of managing children with SED, serious emotional disturbance. So they couldn't always show up for our training. So one of our parents said, why don't we get a hold of the Idaho Youth organization. It's an advocacy agency here in the state of Idaho that supports families with mental health issues. And so we got a hold of FY Idaho, that's what they call themselves, Family Youth Idaho. And working with FY Idaho, they were able to start looking at their parents, the parents that they had and that they were working with, and at bringing those parents to us. So we're in the middle of transitioning where we're using our parent voice and recognizing that, wow, we probably need to start using videos, because that way, when we're doing certain trainings, we can make the videos according to that context. And then when parents can't show up, we've got something that we can use. If they can show up, we can work with the parents, but if they don't, then we've got some videos that we can use. So with that, one of our parents, that Kim Hokinson, agreed that she would video a segment, not only for those trainings, but also in our refresher. She was part of that. She recorded a video with Dr. Fernando, and we're going to show a clip of that in just a few minutes, so you can get a feel for what that's like, and when we put that into our trainings. So we have currently a collaboration with FY Idaho, and they're selecting parents for us, and we are working on some new trainings, and we'll be working on getting those trainings up and running and getting some parent videos in place for that. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was our 2-hour refresher course. We had a bunch of staff that we had trained in-house, and we heard through the One Kid, One Can's work group that those parents that were receiving cans from those in-house workers were having some of the same experiences that the community was having. We were running into some of those, asking every question. This feels just like another hoop, all those different things that are in our comforts and concerns documents, the community was feeling from our staff. So that's where we put together the 2-hour refresher, and we brought in Kim, and she did an excellent job of talking about her experience, and then doing some back and forth questions with our staff. And then we went through the key principles and action levels to help our in-house staff with that refresher course. And we found that the refresher course was 2 hours, and it answered some questions, and the trainees were going, wow, this is really helpful. I really thought the cans was just, something that we had to do. We've been finding, as we've been working with parents, working with the trainees, that there really was some disconnect from the way we rolled out the cans in Idaho to the training that we're doing now. We're getting a lot more feedback from our trainees that they're understanding how the cans is supposed to be used. We're getting good feedback about our new cans, that it's condensed and they like it. I'm going to go ahead and turn this time over to Kyle, and he will show you the video with Dr. Fernando and Kim Hokinson. And then after that, if there's any questions that you have, we'll let you answer those questions. We'll let you ask those questions, and then we'll move on to Brad in the portability.
Thanks, April. So just a little preview. This clip is a part of a larger interview that we did with Dr. Fernando and a provider and myself, and it's not quite approved and put on YouTube yet. We have a lengthy public information process to get things on our YouTube channel, but hopefully this is an exciting sneak peek, and we'd love to share the full clip and some of the the segments that we're working on. But this is Kim sharing some of her parent experience, and I think it's really powerful. We're excited to start sharing it.
Kim, have you ever had an experience where the clinician was more focused on the tools or gathering information rather than listening to your story? And can you talk about what that was like?
Yes, it actually felt like an inquisition is how it felt. So when my daughter had her first scans, it was a very intense question and answer process that lasted for over 2 hours. This process included her past trauma and was so triggering for her that it led to a cascade of crises from that day until she needed to be placed in acute hospitalization weeks later. What most clinicians don't realize is that if the child and youth is triggered within this appointment, that they're not going to take their frustration out on that clinician. They're going to take it out on their family. They're going to do it in their safe space, which is typically home. And it's going to cause this snowball effect, because not only now is that child in crisis, but now the family is as well. We're initiating safety plans and things like that. So when the CANS is done correctly, it should not lead to escalations and crises, because the parent and child should just be sharing their story for the clinician to organize at a later time.
Thanks, and thanks for sharing that story. I think it's really impactful in sort of understanding what happens when we're not focused on people, but we're focused on our documentation. So thanks for that. I wonder if you could talk about a time when the CANS actually supported your family's work in treatment, or a family that you know of.
Well, since I had initiated the conversation around my daughter, I'll just keep going with that piece. So I can tell you, as her and I learned about the CANS over time, we were able to better understand how the CANS could benefit her. So I can tell you, in the past, she would look at her treatment plan and she felt like it was very vague and superficial. She did not like things like in her treatment plan, like client will write in her journal when she's feeling depressed and bring it to the next appointment to process, or client will ask mom for help when she is feeling helpless or overwhelmed, right? She's like, this treatment plan is really just highlighting all of the bad things that I don't like about me, and it's also giving me a to-do list. So this is not helpful. And then she would end up in crisis, and then her treatment plan would still look similar. And she's like, I don't know how to say this differently, but this isn't working for me. This doesn't work. So when her and I learned more about the CANS together, she realized that her strengths could be a huge piece of that treatment plan. And that was really exciting for her. So we ended up including things in her treatment plan that she wanted, right? She wanted to make more friends, and she loved art, and she loved exercising. So to address things like her depression, to address things like her anxiety, to address all of the different symptoms of her diagnoses, we did things like, we're going to have Maya initiate or locate a art club that she wants to join, and within 30 days we're going to get her enrolled. And now we're addressing something that she loves, that's a strength. We're also addressing the fact that she wants to make friends. We're addressing so many different aspects of her life. And then she also needed to find a gym that she wanted to work out at. And if it was a gym that was open 24 hours so that she could go at all hours of the night, then that's what she needed to seek out. But it also really encouraged her independence, right? And that is also key, because now I'm trying to address her need, which was to be more independent and try to move past and encourage her to move past her anxiety and things like that. So that was a highlight. She ended up loving to like really be engaged and be a partner in that treatment planning process. And we were able to do that by using what we had learned from the cans and by utilizing her strengths and needs. And it was very positive from that point forward.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Gave me a little bit of chills, and thank you so much for sharing it.
All right, we will be sure to share the full video and some of those segments on the T Hive when we get those officially approved and on our YouTube channel. But it's awesome just to have parents who are willing to share those experience, and Kim is fantastic. We have parents who really dedicated and are willing to share to try and help other parents because they know what it's like to go through some of those bad experiences. Um, but we're trying our hardest to limit those bad experiences and really amplify the good things that are happening in our system. So I'm going to turn it over to Brad to talk more about some of the portability things that we're doing.
Thanks, Kyle. So when Kyle assembled his team and we were all given parts of the One Kid, One Cans work group to work in, portability was one that he assigned me to. And there was so much passionate discussion about the need and the desire for parents to have access to their cans. Back then, our electronic system where we stored the cans was not very useful. And even though there was a process to share, it wasn't happening because of the cumbersome of the system and all of that. So a great wish list came from that. But parents, what we learned was parents need to have access to their cans. And so we started to work with Liberty, who is the independent assessor in the state of Idaho, to assist kids access to the Youth Empowerment Services program. We worked with them to make it standard policy to give a paper copy of the cans when it's completed to the family, so that that organization of their story for their youth only needed to be gathered once, but shared for that congruent process of communicating with everybody in that youth treatment process. And hopefully, as providers in the community continued, we would hope that providers would also, every time there was an update, to make sure that the family received an updated copy. And what we learned from that is the paper copies was not the most efficient and effective way of making sure that parents have access to the cans. Since July 1st and our new behavioral health plan rolling out, we have a new electronic system that we're using. The feedback that we're getting so far, once, there's been some bugs, but there's always bugs when there's change, but we're getting a lot of positive feedback, and it's getting easier for there to be one cans for one child, rather than multiple providers doing multiple versions of the cans. So that's helping. But starting next year, parents will have the ability to electronically have access to their cans, be able to review it. We're hoping by that process that parents will have, and youth will, having that immediate access to their cans will help in their relationship with their providers, treatment providers, to make sure that the cans is always current and valid to where the youth and family is at that time. More importantly, that the family now has a way of sharing their cans with new providers or in any way that they want to use it to prevent having to tell their story over and over again every time they walk through another door to receive another form of treatment. So we're hoping that that's one of our wishes for next year. We think that that's going to be there. As it is right now, providers, once a CANS is created in the system, it can be available within 48 hours with the consent of the family. And that was the big discussion and the back and forth in the work group was, will the youth and the family be able to keep their info or use their information only in the way they want it to be used. So confidentiality was still very important. We believe that we're navigating that system so that parents and youth are able to feel comfortable and confident in the portability of their information. So one of the challenges before is we would have to rewrite narratives in the old system, in the new system, in the new electronic system. That shouldn't be an issue anymore. We're really looking forward to a more efficient and effective way for families to use their story in getting the support and the help that they need.
Brad, there's a question in the chat that asks if the family's electronic access to their CANs is through the EHR's portal or through a different route, and is it like a link that gets sent to them and they need a password to see it?
So we're working with Magellan and understanding exactly how that is going to work. It's not going to be implemented till early part of 2025, but it will be part of the electronic system that Magellan uses. Kyle, do you have any more information?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well, is they'll have their own login to a member portal. They'll be able to access a number of documents, including the CANs.
So they'll be able to access, they will be able to authorize the use of the CANs and should be able to share it any way they want. The vision that we have is the parents and the youth will have control over their CANs, how it's used. Any other questions? All right, Kyle.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about the Yes Parents Survey and results. My name's Molly, so thank you for letting us be here today. So Kyle talked about the Yes system of care in Idaho that helps families access services and supports for children 0 through 18 who are at risk or have a serious emotional disturbance or SED. So in Idaho, on an annual basis, a Yes Family Population Representative Survey of families who participated in children's mental health services in the Idaho Yes system is sent out. So the survey assesses youth and families' experiences of care based on quality service indicators. So the goal is to monitor the system performance over time and then also to identify targets for improvement. So the target population is all Idaho youth who participated in Yes services from July 1st of 23 through December 31st of 23. They also had a CANS, were between the ages of 4 through 18, and then also had a valid address on file. So each region's share of the sample was equal to its share of the total Yes sampling frame. So the stratified random sample was 6,001 youth and parents. And each region of the state sample was equal to its total of share Yes sampling frame. So out of every 5 or or equal to 20.7 Idaho caregivers who received the survey completed it, which that's where we got our survey response of 1,060. So today we're only going to be looking at the quality indicators as they relate to the Idaho cans, and I believe that Kyle is putting a link to the full report in the chat there, if I'm remembering correctly here. All right, so I'm ready for that next slide. Okay. So the new CANS quality indicators were developed for the 2024 CANS. However, consistent with prior years, almost half of the families indicated their experience did not reflect the quality benchmarks. So the 4 quality indicators we looked at, I'm going to start with upper left, move to lower left, and then go upper right, lower right, just so you know, I'm kind of track it on there. So the 4 quality indicators we looked at were, I was given a copy of my child's CANS, i.e. rating scores and comments. So as you can see, 40% said yes, 30% said no, and 30% said they didn't know. So we're really hoping to see this shift in percentage of people receiving a copy of their CANS since we've rolled out these refresher trainings that April talked about to internal staff, and that we have this team dedicated to supporting TCOM tools across the state. And then with those families gaining access to their CANS through the electronic parent portal beginning in January 2025. The second one is the provider discussed with me the strengths and needs identified with the CANS. So we have 51 that said yes, 24% that said no, and 25% said that they didn't know. And again, we're hoping to see those improvement in outcomes by including that parental voice in trainings, as well as providing statewide support and ongoing trainings. So the third question that we looked at is the provider, my child, and I use the strengths and needs identified on the CANS to create treatment goals. And in Idaho, we're getting ready to roll out training on how to utilize the CANS in treatment planning. And we'll talk about that a little bit, some of the things we have rolling out here in just a little bit more in a minute. But that's one of the things we're hoping to see a change in that with. And then the last one that we looked at is the provider used the strengths and needs identified on the CANS to help me understand what services my child or youth may benefit from. So again, we're working on some decision support models to help direct care for youth and families here in Idaho. Okay, I think I'm ready for the next slide. So future development in Idaho. So we're getting ready to roll out the CANS in practice, which I just alluded to that earlier, and I think April did as well. This is how to utilize the CANS in treatment planning from engagement to transition from services. Our goal is really to show how the CANS is useful. We're looking at an ethics training about balancing collaboration and confidentiality through a consensus-based assessment. We're also looking at CANS and supervision, where supervisors can use the data from the CANS to support clinicians, trends, and inform organizational decision-making. We currently have quarterly collaboratives and are hoping to have additional collaboratives where we can share outcomes, data, answer questions, collaborate, and support each other on implementing TCOM tools. And then we're going to be working on additional on-demand trainings where we would like to create a CANS update in 5 minutes video. We really want to work on videos for the youth experience and then additional parent experience videos similar to what April showed you earlier today. All right. Does anyone have any questions? All right, then I'm going to turn it back over to Scott.
Thanks, Molly. I was just going to mention, I think we've been pretty transparent and presented a lot of the warts and problems we have with our system. So be kind, especially when you look at those survey results. And, you know, I kind of think of if the family didn't receive a copy of the CANS and it wasn't discussed in treatment planning, did a CANS even really happen? You know, a tree falls in a forest, then I don't think a CANS really happened in those situations. They just checked off the box because it was a required part of our system. But we're really hoping that, well, I think we've shown some growth and some things that we're working on, and we do. Yeah, thanks, John. We're trying to really make person-centered care and transformation happen in our system, and make that the focus instead of maximizing billable hours or any other outcome that we could choose to focus on. But I would love to hear if you've had some successes in your states about engaging parents, what things you've done that have really worked with um, getting parents involved. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute, and I would love if someone would just chime in and maybe share some ideas or success stories you've had.
Feel free to either put something in the chat box, which we're monitoring, or you can also unmute yourself and say what you'd like to say.
I don't know if we mentioned our 101 trainings at the universities. Molly and I had an opportunity to take the 101 and do an hour presentation with one of our local universities. It was well received, and the instructor said that she was going to work on getting us into her curriculum so that we could train the students before they get out into the field. Recently, we've had an influx of interns coming into our trainings. And so when we put this curriculum together, when Beth put this curriculum together, that was the whole focus. It was if we can get into the universities and start working with them, then when these people graduate, they're ready to go. And that we've got one that we're doing, but we're really working on that to get that out into the community as well, so that when these people come out into the workforce, they're already aware of the cans, and we've been doing the training to the comforts and concerns and some of the problems in the One Kid, One Cans. They're already a leg up on that. So the information that we've been learning, we really have been trying to put into action and get out there and turn the system all around.
April, I wonder if you could do like just a 2-sentence description of what the 101 is, just so people know, for people who don't know.
The 101, so it is basically an introduction of what the TCOM tools are. We're not specifically focusing on cans. We're focusing on what TCOM tools are, and then saying, hey, if you're going to work with youth in the state of Idaho, you're going to need to know about the cans, and that is something that you would need to be certified in. So we really go through an overview of what TCOM is, you know, that we're managing the complex systems and introducing that to the students.
Hi, this is Kimberly from Los Angeles, California. Can I make a quick comment, please? Can you hear
Please.
me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I'm one of the lead managers on CANS at the Department of Children and Family Services in Los Angeles. And I have to tell you guys, it's really impressive how you are involving the parents. I don't think we're doing that in Los Angeles. It's definitely something I'm going to take back to the executive team and the managers. The staff fill the cans out at the CFT. They talk to their supervisor about an upcoming court report or decisions having to be made. But I think that's the extent of what we do with the cans. I mean, we do other things, but I know we do not talk to these parents and discuss the cans with the parents. So that's really impressive that you guys are doing that. It's something I'm going to take back for sure. Definitely a learning moment this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's also a question in the chat here about Scott Fairhurst said, we're getting ready to put out videos for clients and families, target length 2 minutes, that are person-centered and talk about participating in measurement. We have other measures beyond the cans. Other than posting on YouTube, how would you get them to clients? Would you push it out through text, right in between political fundraising texts on their phones? Would you advise clinicians to watch during a session?
I'll take a stab at that one. That is a great question. I think that's what we're right in the middle of trying to figure out ourselves with that communications work group. is how do we actually get these things out there to the people that need to hear it? And it's really challenging. We're trying newsletters, we're trying videos, on-demand content, improving our trainings. Because yeah, it is very hard to get the knowledge to where it needs to go. But I like your last idea. I think that's kind of where we're going, is how can we have some things that clinicians can actually give to parents when they come in, whether it's a flyer or a short video. What can we give to them to pass along to the parents and the youth?
We have a couple minutes left. Any last comments or questions for the presenters?
Just
I
have
think
a question, comment, which I think it's fascinating, but a little perhaps ironic that you actually can use parent experiences to teach providers how to actually do better work.
Yeah.
I think that's really profoundly important. And figuring out how we can do that routinely, I think, is a real interesting challenge. I mean, what you all have done is really impressive in terms of listening and incorporating and actually making the lived experience real in terms of its impact on practice and policy. And I just want to applaud you, but I'm wondering if you think about that, you know, what are your lessons learned and how to figure out how to reach the providers with this kind of information, because I'm sure it has not been easy.
It's a challenge. Yeah. We're really trying to use free CEUs as our avenue to get an audience with a lot of these providers. But it's hard to get people to change their practice. I mean, that's my belief, is people get pretty stuck in what they're doing, and doing something different is challenging. Especially even our system, you know, system change is definitely an uphill battle. But my encouragement for everybody is just find ways to include the parents and youth. It's worth it, even though it sometimes feels like herding cats when you get a large work group together. I know it was challenging, but it's been worth it. And I'm, yeah, so glad with where we're going, where we're getting to.
Do you think it's the implicit stigma? I mean, I was thinking about this because in almost all other industries, you absolutely listen to your customers. Absolutely. I mean, that's the fundamental of person-centered design of most economies. We've been a little bit slow to pick that sort of idea up in the behavioral health system. And I'm just wondering if it's not the vestiges of stigma.
Think so. Yeah. That these people are ill and we need to fix them somehow. And yeah, no, that's not what we need to do. We need to partner with them.
No, you have to partner. Yes. Interesting. It's great.